Plenty, a worthy film, doesn't pack a whole lot of punch from the outset, instead using its time to chip away at us, establish some themes, lay down some plot lines, and develop the characters. But more often than you'd think, all of these elements conspire to kick things into gear in the final moments, taking a film into overdrive with suddenly rising action, unexpected events, and paradigm-shifting twists. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie for Whatculture, and here are movies which go from 0 to 100 right at the end. American fiction. Based on Percival Everett's novel Erasure, Cord Jefferson's American fiction takes a wry look at the failings of the contemporary literary scene from the perspective of author Thelonious Monk Ellison. Monk has never let the colour of his skin define his career, but he finds himself suddenly playing to a false blackness when My Pathology, a novel he writes as a joke and which panders to working-class African-American stereotypes, suddenly blows up. Championed by a largely white, female, and achingly progressive literary industry, there is nothing Monk can do to throw the establishment off what they see as the next major black fiction, including portraying himself as an ex-gangbanger and escaped convict. This sets up a lot of comedy paced with the changing relationships in Monk's life, including his sister dying and his mother facing the first hurdles of Alzheimer's. While the film carries itself along at a leisurely pace, the final 10 minutes take a turn for the meta. At the New England Book Association's Literary Award ceremony, the book is announced the winner and Monk takes the stage, admitting he needs to make a confession before the film cuts to black. He then has a back and forth with a film producer on a Hollywood lot where they change the ending several times, including to Monk fleeing the ceremony to apologize to his girlfriend and the cops storming the auditorium and shooting him dead on stage. Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. This 2012 film is 65% rom-com, 34% quirky indie, and 1% apocalypse. Steve Carell stars as insurance salesman Dodge Peterson, an average middle-class guy whose wife leaves him upon the news that a 70-mile-wide asteroid is set to destroy life on Earth in 3 weeks. This kickstarts Dodge's life for real, knocking him out of his slump to embark on a road trip across the US with his neighbor Penny and Sorry the dog. Penny seeks a reunion with her family. Dodge seeks a reunion with his high school sweetheart, and along the way they encounter orgies and suicides and plenty of other needy souls seeking purpose, love, and friendship. But at its core, the journey sets Dodge and Penny on their own collision course with the real love of their lives: each other. The film is precisely what one would expect from Carell. It's fun, it has a good heart, and there are plenty of kooky characters. But then the world literally ends. Yep. While the tone of the film allows us to think that the telegraphed end of humanity may not actually come, it arrives precisely on schedule, concluding the movie in a blaze of white light. The Zone of Interest. A slice of life from Rudolf Höss, commandant of Auschwitz, the film has us spend time with the Höss family in and around their home, which borders the camp in the so-called Zone of Interest, a Nazi euphemism for this restricted area. Granted, the film is grim and sickening and loaded with dread throughout, but everything that a Holocaust movie would typically focus on, death, brutality, the camp itself, is pushed purposefully into the background, looming over an idyllic family life that it never really comes into contact with. That is, until the ending. About to return from his Berlin office, Rudolf is seized by a sudden coughing fit, doubling over and retching while he descends an increasingly dark staircase, and is seemingly caught, for a few minutes, by the horrors not so much of what he has done, but what all his efforts will become. In this moment, the film whacks us right in the heart of Auschwitz, present day, making us finally face the reality of horrors that went on behind the camp walls. Primal Fear. In Primal Fear, defense attorney Martin Vale is making bank working for people he knows he shouldn't really be representing. But somebody has to, and so long as his clients pay, well, he's happy to be their man. Ah, justice. But when a new case finds its way onto his desk, in which amnesiac altar boy Aaron Stampler is accused of brutally murdering the Archbishop of Chicago, Martin has to put his selfish interests aside and work to prevent the boy from receiving the death penalty. Somewhere in between courtroom drama and police procedural, light on action and heavy on scuttlebutt, a lot of Primal Fear is spent on after-the-fact investigations and evidence retrieval, as it comes to light that Aaron's dissociative personality, Roy, might be responsible. However, the film abandons pretense in the 11th hour, after Martin has effectively helped Aaron dodge not only the death penalty, but any kind of meaningful sentence. In the final scene, Aaron reveals that he has been faking all along. His true personality is that of the aggressive, destructive, and sinister Roy, and in a manic, scenery-chewing confession, he reveals he's been using Martin all along to get away with murder. Official competition. On the surface, this Spanish-language dramedy about a multi-millionaire businessman hiring a reclusive and neurotic director to produce an art film about a man unable to forgive his brother for killing their parents while drunk driving may seem pretty slow-moving. And it is. To bring the production together, Lola, the director, hires method stage actor Ivan Torres and Hollywood actor Felix Rivero, pitching their unique styles against each other to draw out the sibling rivalry on screen. What follows is a comedy of personalities where the two stars spend weeks in private rehearsals and tests conceived of by Lola, battling each other while simultaneously sinking into their parts. The film is far from dull, but does spend a hefty amount of time on intense character exploration within a single location, the director's large designer house, feeling at times like a piece of theatre. But everything comes to a head when, at a party to celebrate the start of shooting, Felix confronts Ivan on the roof and throws him to the ground below, rendering him comatose. The film then literally speeds up with a montage of the following months as the shoot completes with Felix in both roles. The businessman finances a bridge, Felix returns to Hollywood, and Ivan awakens from his coma, cursing Felix's name. The Sixth Sense. Few twists have been spoiled more frequently or emphatically in pop culture than The Sixth Sense. Back when M. Night Shyamalan was still the man, perhaps his best twist of all, that Bruce Willis is a ghost for the film's duration, was spoiled on everything from Scrubs to a Lonely Island song, apparently just for the hell of it. But despite this, the twist is what makes the entire picture. Cole Sear is a child literally haunted by ghosts, possessing a preternatural power to commune with spirits that have reason to linger beyond their passing. It makes sense then to pair him with the child's psychologist Dr. Malcolm Crowe, who vows to help him uncover the truth of his affliction, having failed a previous patient with similar complaints. But after coasting along for an hour and a half with a few spooky yet benign moments and a lot of mystery, the whole thing comes crashing down around our ears. All the small, seemingly ordinary pieces we failed to notice along the way, that nobody but Cole talks directly to Malcolm, that his wife is perpetually sad and distant, fall into place, packing an emotional gut punch unlike any other. In one short sequence, we share Malcolm's truth, witness the gunshot that killed him, and experience the unraveling of everything we took to be true. They Have Escaped. 2014's They Have Escaped has a late-in-the-day switch-up that defies expectation and eschews the kid gloves lesser directors may have been tempted to don. Joni and Racer meet at a centre for problematic youth, Joni serving his civil service and Racer reluctantly being detained for constant troublemaking. Soon, her penchant for mischief and his infatuation inspire a breakout, and the pair abandon the conventions and laws of society on a rambling road trip with plenty of stops and diversions. They steal, break into houses, trip balls in the woods, and encounter some pretty vibrant characters along the way. While none of this is exactly tame, the film manages to up the ante something fierce at the end. What in Hollywood would have continued along the lines of a quirky indie coming-of-age story, in this particular case becomes a living nightmare. Colliding with the adult world they have so deftly been avoiding in the film's latter scenes, the pair are kidnapped by irate landowners and kept in cages in the woods. Here they are urinated on, physically abused, and almost drowned in blood. It's definitely not Nick and Nora. Parasite. South Korean auteur Bong Joon-ho may have been making exciting, entertaining, and politically charged movies for 2.5 decades, but it wasn't until 2019 that the world sat up and took notice, with his groundbreaking, class-based comedy thriller Parasite. Told through the lens of a family on the breadline barely making ends meet, the film transports us to present-day Seoul, where the Kims gradually insert themselves into the rich Park family's life, faking it until they make it as a university-educated tutor, an art therapist, a chauffeur, and a housekeeper. But greed and a seemingly unbreakable class barrier endanger the family's symbiotic relationship and lead to a series of close calls, deceptions, and humiliations, all while the previous housekeeper's husband lives secretly in the basement. Bong never lays track for it to go nowhere, and Parasite's conclusion arrives in an explosion of violence at a birthday party for the park's son. The housekeeper's husband breaks loose from the basement, attacks the interloping Kim family, causes the park's son to have a seizure, and in all the madness and confusion, the Kim patriarch stabs and kills his opposite. This brief flurry of violence ignites Parasite's themes and takes the film up a few hundred notches in the process. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood ushered in a new era for Quentin Tarantino, demonstrating his ability to hold back on the violence that has typified his filmography in the interest of making something a little slower and more atmospheric. The film takes place in 1969 LA, where fading cowboy actor Rick Dalton and his stunt double Cliff Booth try to find a new niche in the rapidly growing film industry, while the looming threat of the murderous Manson family hangs over proceedings. Unusually for a Tarantino flick, the violence is light, the pace lackadaisical, and apart from a tense scene at Manson's ranch, there's not a whole lot of danger present throughout. That is, until the ending. In another moment of wishful historical revisionism, a la Django Unchained or Inglourious Basterds, Tarantino has the Manson family launch their attack on Rick's house rather than Sharon Tate's, here played by Margot Robbie, as they did in real life. What follows is a sequence of OTT ultra-violence, as the actor and the stuntman put the cultists to rights with a dog, a can, the wall, the fireplace, and a flamethrower. Surprisingly, this sequence doesn't feature Charles Manson at all, as he only appears in one scene, with the rest of his performance being cut when editing the film from a mammoth 260-minute version down to a cleaner 170. 2001: A Space Odyssey. Stanley Kubrick's science fiction magnum opus 2001: A Space Odyssey is one of the most recognizable and admired films of all time, and it's not difficult to see why. Given it released in the late 60s, it presents space and interstellar technology in a way that is light years ahead of its time, while providing a template for so much of the cinema that followed. Adapted from a short story by Arthur C. Clarke, 2001 follows Dr. Dave Bowman on a mission into the far reaches of the solar system, guided and soon waylaid by his ship's AI computer system HAL. While visually and technologically impressive, showing us the intricate workings of a complex ship and rendering space in vivid detail, 2001 is as slow as moonwalking molasses. But that's the way with space travel, isn't it? Kubrick makes the journey worthwhile with a show-stopping final section that packs as much action and excitement into the final 10 minutes as it does the preceding 2 hours. At Jupiter, Dave is pulled into a mind-bending vortex of coloured light and surreal landscapes, the like of which any acid freak can only dream. He finds himself transported to a neoclassical bedroom where he ages exponentially, reaching old age in minutes before being faced with a monolith that offers him the potential to become something new. Thus, Dave becomes a space fetus, floating above the Earth in a transparent orb. What does it mean? That's another matter.